Hello. How's it going? Doug Cunnington here from Niche Site Project, and we're doing the live session for this Thursday. I've been shuffling around the schedule due to some other interviews and obligations, and well, I don't know how my schedule is gonna quite look, so I just kind of shuffle it around a little bit. Some people probably expected me to go live on, I think Tuesday was when I had it before. So if you tuned in on Tuesday and I wasn't around, I'm sorry. I was doing a pretty cool interview, hanging out with some people, which I'll tell you all about later. Let me know in the chat if you could hear me. It's always good just to double check that sort of thing. And I think Thursday seemed like they could be pretty good, but one thing, I probably won't have them on Fridays. Going to keep Fridays open. May shuffle it around a little bit. Tuesday and Wednesday mornings for me, and sometimes it bleeds out into the afternoon, but those are not ideal. I may look to see when Alex Cooper over at WP Eagle does his and maybe try to get the slot just ahead of his or just after. I think that's a good thing. Maybe just ahead of his. However, a lot of times I do podcast interviews on Tuesday and Wednesday mornings. So we'll just see. That's why it's so volatile. And I'm not sure I want to lock in for a specific time. Although it's great to be regular so that people know when to expect. Anyway, so that's one thing going on. And today I'm going to answer some questions. I did have a couple of ideas of things we could talk about, like how to write content. We can maybe create a template for a certain kind of content or something like that. There are often questions about content. The other thing we get questions all the time on is choosing a niche and maybe like finding other affiliate programs, which kind of go hand in hand. So we could look at a little bit of that kind of thing too, which could be interesting. So if you are interested in those areas, feel free to ask. And you could just, I'm looking at the chat closely. I see Jason's on. What's going on? Yeah, things are going good today. And I have a couple guitars behind me. I've been taking guitar lessons. So I took one lesson. Wow, it must have been last summer. I can't believe it's already January of 2022. Hell, we're almost through the whole month too. But it must have been like July or something like that. There was a guy I was watching on YouTube, and he was playing the kind of guitar that I was interested in learning. And he was like, "Yeah, I do lessons occasionally, hit me up, blah, blah, blah." So I had one lesson with him, and it kind of got me started a little bit. Looking back, it wasn't super helpful. He was, you know, he was kind of busy with life and whatever it is that he does. And we went through a couple exercises, but I knew it was just going to be like a one-off lesson. Now, the good part is, this guy helped me establish some good habits and that sort of thing, and it got me busy for a little while. But more recently, I was watching this musician. She's out in Nashville now, but her name's Christina Vane. Which, if you listen to my podcast, you know that I did a whole random episode about this. But I took a couple lessons with her, and just earlier today, I was playing guitar with her. So that's been good, and it's great to have some direction on like what to practice and have someone be able to show you exactly what to do and then observe what you're doing to tell you what you're doing wrong. And just like when I'm trying to learn like finger style guitar, sort of ragtime and blues inspired. So if you're not familiar with that sort of music, there's just sort of a rhythmic thumb picking going on, and the musicians out there probably know what I'm talking about. But it's totally different than just strumming chords, or if you're playing solos or something like that, and you have like all your fingers working independently. And the reason why I'm pointing all that out is I could play chords and strum and have a light understanding of music theory and such. But the thing is, when you start trying to do something completely different, you start at zero. and it was very frustrating, like last year when I was like trying to learn. Of course, I mean, I want to do it. I understand you have to like push through the hard parts, but it was really tough. And then when I started these lessons last week, it was like, starting again with a metronome out and just going really, really slow. And then finally, after 5 days of what seems to be zero progress, it seems like nothing's happening. It seems like I'm not getting better. It's just as hard as day one. And then finally, after like 5 to 6 days, it finally clicked, the one song that I was working on. So I made some progress, but it's slow. It seems like nothing's happening for a while. And you could draw analogies from that, of course. I'm not going to draw the obvious one right now. All right, Zach's on, and we do have a question from Naranyana, I think is how we say that. Does having the same post on the subcategory page and the main category page affect SEO? It might. It does depend if you have your category page and your subcategory page indexed, which I would recommend that you don't have those indexed. So it might impact your SEO and your rankings and what ranks, right? So the worst thing that could happen here is someone Googles their phrase, and then they get sent to the subcategory page where there's a bunch of random shit on there unrelated to what they want, and whatever they want is like buried at the bottom 10 posts down or something like that. So that's the worst thing that could happen, because someone will Google it, your site comes up, they click on it, and then they end up on your category page and they're like, this isn't, where is the topic that I'm looking for? This is some random other posts that are unrelated. So I would not index your category or your subcategory page. You can hard code that if you want to, but most of the tools, most of the SEO plugins will allow you to no index if you want. All right, Zach, what's going on with you this week? Gaz is on as well. You got to work from home and you're cooking. All right. What are you cooking? I made pizza last night. It was really good. For a time I was making a lot of bread. This was way before the pandemic. This was like 10, 12 years ago. I had like dough in the refrigerator, and I ran across, I think it was like bread in 5 minutes a day, something like that. Turned out to be a very famous book, but I was reading the blog way before that. So I would have like a large container of dough that it's like a no need situation. And you were basically, you just put flour, water, yeast, and a little salt in the fridge. You stir it, you just barely mix it up, and then you get this great sourdough flavor, and the long fermentation of that kind of no knead dough, it makes it taste so good. So I've been doing pizza here recently. So I bought like a huge bag of flour, so I'm like, I gotta use it somehow. All right. Zach, great question. What's the easiest way to test out a paid course or other monetization on your site? I don't want to spend a lot of time on it before I know if my visitors would be interested. So you can, to test it out. Well, I'm assuming, well, let's dive into this a little bit deeper. So if you spent more time on it, what would that mean? Do you mean going through the course and providing like a big review and writing the content? Are you talking about like writing the content in the review, or is it some other piece that would be time consuming? Basically, you there's there's not really a good shortcut. So let's talk through it. So one thing you could do is try to, put in just a short blurb, a little ad in there, and content that should be the right audience. And you could say, hey, if you're interested in this topic and you want to go deeper, here's this course. The problem with that is you may not have enough traffic, or you may not have enough traffic to test that to see if it's effective. And then you may not have enough traffic that's, right. So it may actually be a good product that would convert well, but you just need a lot more traffic on there because it's a subset of the traffic. The other part, right, you may think it's the right audience wherever you're testing that small ad because that's quick to implement. But the problem is it might not be the right traffic. It might not be buyer oriented. They may not be interested in courses. They may be cheap and they don't want to spend money online. Maybe something like that. So this is one of those things where you don't know if it's going to work until you put in the time and resources. So quick example for myself, for Niche Site Project, I identified a set of keywords that look to be very easy to rank for. It looks like it's pretty low competition. I see thin content out there, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go for it and check it out. Now, like, what would that look like? So I'm not gonna write it myself, so I hired a couple writers to help me out with it. It's also a very time-consuming set of content. It's not something you can just throw together really quickly. So there's a lot of research behind it as well. So I was like, I mean, this is going to take some time and money to do. On top of that, right, even if I could snap my fingers and have all the content that I need for this test, it would still take a little while to rank. So when you put it all together, I have to figure out what I want to do. I have to hire people to do the work because I'm not going to do it. And then I have to put in the time to actually like have the work done, so I can't get it instantly. And then after it's published, I'm going to have to wait weeks or months to see if it worked. So it's costing me, I'm trying to think, it's probably going to end up costing me like $2,000 to $3,000 just on the content. And I don't even know if it's going to work. And it's going to cost, you know, 4 to 6 months to know if it worked. Now, it maybe would rank quickly and then I know it works, but if it doesn't, I'm like, do I have to tweak it? Like what went wrong? Then the other part, right, with the time and effort and the people that I hired, it's not just, it's not the cost, it's also the opportunity cost with what they could have been working on or what I could have done with the $2,000 to $3,000. So the good part is, well, there's no shortcut and no one can take that shortcut. So you don't know if it's going to work or not until you get started. And fuck, everything's that way, right? Basically, everything's that way. Do you can't do two things at once and like give both of them the same shot. So, one thing I could talk about in a second is just like more on opportunity cost. And I'll pause here. I see some more questions coming in, but I'll riff on that later. All right, I want to give a quick shout out before I answer more questions. One is Ezoic. They sponsor these live streams. You should check out their tool Leap, and it'll help your site load faster, green and core web vitals. And speaking of Ezoic, I just put Ezoic on a site that I have been working on in actually this week. So, went through the process. It has been a while. So, I had to update the DNS, had to do a couple other things, but it actually went pretty smoothly. Whenever you're updating DNS settings and your site is inaccessible for a little while, it's always a little scary, but everything worked out and you have monetization turned on in just a couple days, actually, really fast. And it was a holiday week as well, so really fast. So thanks to Ezoic. Check them out. Even if you don't have any traffic on your site, there's no page view limits. You can get started, use tools Leap right away. And shout out to Odys, Odys, and I will talk about them a little bit more coming up soon. All right, what questions do we have here? All right, and guys, it says you're getting more impressions and clicks every day, 2 months in. Awesome. And you're making chicken Kievs, potato croaks, and sweet corn. Sounds good. All right. Rabbi Hussein Khan has a KGR question. All right. Oh, this is a great question because I don't know the answer to it. All right. If I publish all the contents that are KGR in 25 articles per month, what can I expect after 12 months? So this is great because this is what people want to know, right? And it actually ties in perfectly to Zach's question. And yeah, basically we want to know if something's going to work before we get started. I don't know what that was above there. I think Georgie just came in from a walk. The hall is like right here, so you can hear a lot right there. So we want to know if things are going to work before we get started. You want to know, are these good keywords? Even on a micro level, right? It's like, hey, is this a good niche? Hey, is this a good keyword once you figured out if the niche is good? Is a site going to work? Will I be able to get traffic? How much can I earn if I publish 25 articles per month? What can I expect after 12 months? We don't know. There's no way to tell. I'll tell you some benchmarks you can think about on average. Then I can ramble on about this for hours, but I'm going to keep this a little tighter. So the real answer is I don't know. There's a chance, and I've heard from people out there that have done that, and they get absolutely zero traffic. They make no money. It was largely a set of mistakes, a series of mistakes over and over again the whole time. But that's sad. You know, we don't want to hear that. We want to hear the success stories. So after 12 months, if you publish, you know, that many articles, which what is that? So 4, yeah, 3, yeah. So you're gonna have a decent number of articles there. There's a good chance that you should be able to earn within 6 months or so. You should be able to hit like $100 per month threshold. There's a wide range of topics that you could approach. There's a wide range of monetization. There are a series of variables that add up in this equation. So I'm generalizing on a huge level here. After about 9 months, you might be at 150 or, you know, $1,000 a month. After 12 months, there's a okay chance that you're making, you know, $1,000 to $3,000 per month, give or take, right? Again, there's so many variables. What if you choose a niche where advertisers are not too interested and the products are kind of cheap? Like maybe you're selling a chapstick, for example, like custom chapsticks this is from my dentist, and they're cheap. You know, people are not spending that much money on chapstick. So there's a chance that you do all that stuff and then, you know, you're only making $50 a month and there's just not room to expand. So you have to think about all those things. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to do a bunch of work, you know, there's a solid chance you're going to be able to earn a few $100s per month. And again, you know, it goes back to whether or not things are going to be successful, and basically anything worthwhile, you won't know if it's going to work out for you until after you get started. So what you want to do is pick things to work on where even if it doesn't work, even if you don't hit your success mark, it's still a good project to work on because you've improved your knowledge, you've increased your network, and you know more people. you are more knowledgeable about creating a website or hiring writers or something like that. So even when you come out of it, either you're going to have a successful website plus some skills, or you're going to have a project that didn't work out like you hoped, and then you're still going to have these skills which you could do something with. Your perspective will be different. So, I can think of many people, and they're like, you know what? If I don't know if it's going to work, then I'm not going to get started. It's like, if it was a sure fucking thing, everyone would do it. It's so defeatist, and it's like, I'm too good, I'm too busy to put in the time like everybody else on this thing. I just want to work on stuff that I know is going to be successful. I mean, if you're doing that, then I want to know how to tell the future as well. Okay. I said I wasn't going to go on too long on that. All right, next question. GTFO says, when starting a new website, is it okay to just put up text, or is it better to put up a complete post with images? It's okay to put just text, but it's better to put images. And Zach is saying, okay, I was hoping for more of a proof of concept idea. You're trying to figure out more ways to incorporate the sell it before you build it, or MVP mindset. Oh, okay, Zach, I misinterpreted your question. So Zach, are you looking to develop the course yourself? If so, you should definitely pre-sell the course. If you followed along with the case study with Christy, she created a course, but I disagree with her very much in this area. So she comes from an older school background where she was like, you know what? I want to build the course before I even sell it, which is just, you don't have to do that. Like, that is not best practice. That is a bad move. You should never build the course before you pre-sell it. If you go to any of the course platforms they all have like free material. So Zach, you can go and check out their free educational stuff, and they will basically go through the process of how to pre-sell a course. So you should always pre-sell the course. Here is the baseline idea behind it. And if people are able to, hit the thumbs up, let the algorithm know that you like the video. So what you do is, it's great if you have an email list. Ideally, you have an email list. If not, you can still sort of direct traffic over there, but really you need an email list to sell this stuff. You can contact the people directly, and those are people that have more interest in your brand in the topic area. Here's how you pre-sell a course. You create an outline with the material that you're going to cover. That's basically the syllabus of the course, and that is what you can place on your sales page. The other stuff on the sales page, you're going to have to research that, but there's pretty much a formula to put together a sales page. You may have reservations on being too salesy, but the fact is, like, you should probably use the best practices for sales pages. Again, those companies that have course platforms, they will teach you how to do that for free. They have tons of material. They want you to be successful and want you to sign up and stay on their platform. So they do everything they can to educate you. So you have the outline with what you're going to cover. It should be some sort of transformation. I recommend small at first, so just like one transformation. And it could be, I'll give an example for my course. I have one course on productivity, the Productivity Masterclass. And it takes you from, being sort of overwhelmed and not being able to complete your projects to, by the end, you have identified projects that are a good priority for you that you want to work on. And then it takes you through the steps to execute and do that. And the punchline is, you have to ignore many things to be able to complete the things that are really important to you. So there's no, like I was saying before, sometimes there's no shortcut. So sometimes if you want to do a lot of work on one project, you have to not do work on the other project. Opportunity cost. So you create the course and say, hey, it'll be delivered in, a month or 2 weeks or whatever, however long. And you set up a threshold and you say, hey, if I sell 10 of these, I'm going to create the product that's enough for me to understand that there's a market out there. Set up PayPal, set up, however you need to accept payments. PayPal is super cheap, very easy to do. Accept payments. They pay for it ahead of time. They know that they're going to get unit number 1 starting in 2 weeks. And then each week after that, the course will, roll out. Again, for your first course, definitely recommend something smaller, 3 to 4 units max, maybe 2 to 3 lessons per unit. So it's, kind of bite size. It's not too overwhelming for you. And it just takes a person through that sort of smaller transformation. And if you don't sell your threshold, you can, think about, revisiting the sales page or the offering or whatever, but you just refund everybody their money back. So essentially you're removing risk. The issue with what Christy did is she put in all this time, thousands of dollars worth of effort, hours of time to develop the course that she didn't even know if people want it or not. All you have to do is create an outline. You basically talk about the units and lessons that you're going to cover, and then you pre-sell it. It's very, very common to do, and it's a no-brainer. There's no reason to develop the course before you get started. All right, Burhan, what's up? Good to see you. And Gaz mentions that adding small related images makes it more engaging. Yep, totally. Oh, Ariel, what's going on? And the topic today, we're just answering questions. I'm randomly telling stories as well. All right. Abdul says, I'm using a free domain that HostGator offers with hosting for 1 year. Now you want to change hosting. Can I explain how to move the domain to Namecheap or Siteground? Yeah. So number 1, you can transfer the domain registration over to Namecheap. There is information at Namecheap to tell you how to do that. You will have to sort of like unlock it over at HostGround so that it's able to be transferred. And then you can move it over to your Namecheap account for the registration. That's what I typically do. Most of my domains are at Namecheap. So that's the domain registration piece. Namecheap will help you do that. If you have questions or anything, they'll help you get it over, but it's pretty straightforward. There's like a support piece of documentation that tells you what to do. The other part is moving the domain to Siteground. Also straightforward. You can follow the link. I am a affiliate for Siteground, so you could follow the link and get a better deal. And you can have Siteground transfer it for you. So typically they will, I'm not sure if they charge for it these days, but they used to do it for free. There's a tool that will help you from transfer it. I think it's just a plugin. So again, you can check with Siteground to see their recommended site transfer, but of course they want people to come on over. So they usually make it very easy and streamlined to transfer site. I haven't transferred one over in a while, but they used to do it for you. They would like sign into your cPanel and just move everything over. You still have to, make sure the configuration's correct. Typically, whenever I've moved sites, you have to double check your email server, a couple other things. You will discover a couple days later, like, oh, I forgot to change the setting, and maybe some images are weird, but you can fix them. There might be a plugin, but it will be on the Siteground documentation. And of course, if you want to transfer over, they make it very easy for you to do so. All right, God says you love the Zero BS streams. I don't even know what I was talking about, but thanks. Appreciate it. And Paula says, let's get some more likes. Yeah, thank you for liking the video. We got 13, and I know the cool thing is like most people watch the replay on these. I pick the shittiest times and I do a bad job like getting people on board. And I mean, the fact is, I often don't have much of a topic to go off of, or at least in the last few weeks. But sometimes if I pick something with some keyword richness, it gets a lot more views. So I have to I got to do that. Okay. We have a question about JPEGs or PNGs. And you say JPEGs are often a bigger file size. It's actually incorrect. I think JPEGs are usually smaller. So I usually use JPEGs. Yeah. I guess it depends on what the image is as well. But JPEGs are usually smaller, as far as I know. Feel free to correct if I'm completely wrong on that. All right, Zach says, yeah, more power to Christy and her results. But again, yeah, I think it's you should always pre-sell stuff. There's no reason to not do that, especially with an online course. It's a bad move. It's a waste of time. It puts you in a position of trying to catch up. And Zach, this is a great point. You come from the startup world, you always build and pivot in the smallest iterations. That's why you want to do that. Yep. So I would say, Zach, because I talked about it with like the full series with Christy, but you check out, I think Teachable and Kajabi are the two companies that come to mind that have like really good education around pre-selling. So I would have a look at that. And that's what I've done with my first few courses. I pre-sold them, so it removed all the risk. And later I haven't pre-sold them because I understand the audience pretty well. And whenever I've come up, I guess in the last year and a half, I created like 4 new courses, I think 4 of them. So I kind of know like what my audience wants and what's useful. And I would, create a course when, people really want it. So I haven't pre-sold as much, but it's because of the experience that I have. All right. And David has a vote for Namecheap. Yep, I do like Namecheap. They have a pretty nice setup, and I have um, most of my domains there. All right, and God says you've purchased a couple recommended books to increase motivation. 4-Hour Work Week. Yep, I like the 4-Hour Work Week. Millionaire Fastlane. I've had some friends that really enjoyed Millionaire Fastlane, but I can't remember. Maybe I read a couple. Maybe I read like the intro, and I was like, this guy seems like a douchebag. So I think it's for the right people, that can be quite motivating. But sometimes if the tone is not to my liking, I'm like, you know what? I don't think so. But I have a lot of friends. I mean, Millionaire Fastlane, it just doesn't sound like something I want to read about. But I come from a different area. But if a specific book sounds good to you, you like the tone, you read the jacket, and you like what you hear, or if it's really recommended, then go for it. Another example, let's talk about books I hate. All right. So another one is what is it called? The Miracle Morning. Is that what it is? Someone correct me if I'm wrong. The Miracle Morning. And I listened to I listened to the podcast or a podcast, several podcast interviews with the guy, and I just didn't like his energy. I don't know what it was, but I was like, I don't like this guy. I just, I'm not sure what it is, and I'm fine. I don't. I have a routine, and hell, it maybe mirrors what they do in the book, but I'm doing okay. So I don't feel like I need the miracle morning. Has somebody corrected me? Okay. Yeah. Everyone, put up more book recommendations, by the way, and what you like. So yeah, the miracle morning is one where I was like, I am not. I don't like this dude. I'm not going to read the book. Not into it. It's recommended by so many people, and they're like, oh yeah, it really changed my life. Blah blah blah. I don't know. I think by the time it came out, I kind of was. I had a decent routine. It's not solving a problem that I have. One other book that I haven't read yet. I have the audio book, but everyone is, very excited about it, is Atomic Habits. And I have already read The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And one thing that I realized after I read, I have probably, 15 sort of self-help productivity kind of books back there, like all along these lines, right? And what I realized is they were generally referencing a lot of the same reference material. So they would talk about the marshmallow study. They would talk about the Stanford prison experiment. Those are a couple that stick out, but there's like a handful of others. Oh, the jelly experiment. And, there's good data in there, right? There's good information in each of those books. But I did realize we're just we're looking at the same studies over and over again and just repackaging them in a little bit different context with a different author. And I was reading one of Mark Manson's books, and as soon as I started the chapter, I was like, this is one of the studies and one of the stories from four other books that I've read. And it's fine, you take that story and you could put your own spin on it and tell it your own way. But I was like, this whole chapter, like I've already read it in like four other books. All that to say, when Atomic Habits came out, I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is just the same shit again, which I've already read, which is fine. It doesn't mean it's not valuable. I literally have the audiobook. It doesn't mean it's not valuable, but it also showed me that if I just do the things that I've already read in those books back there, I'm probably in pretty good shape. It doesn't mean I'm not interested in learning more. And I will tell you a book that that I'm listening to for like the third time in the last few weeks in a second, because I see there's some other things in here. Okay. Someone else uses Namecheap. That's cool. And I disagree with GTFO. It says, I use Namecheap. They are inexpensive for the first year, but there's a big price hike in subsequent years. I don't think there's a big price hike. I think you may be thinking of a different company. Although I don't know what you paid for your first year, but I haven't noticed it being like super expensive. They tend to have pretty good prices. David says, what do I think about AppSumo and the marketing tools we could find there? I haven't gotten any AppSumo things recently. I think it's a cool concept for people to get good deals on products that they use. What I will caution you on is you shouldn't buy products that you don't need yet. And you shouldn't buy products that you're thinking, hey, I'm going to use that in the future. That could be useful. I want to lock in the lifetime deal. It's a good way to see how scarcity will encourage you to buy things that you don't need. So I would say buy what you need. Don't buy things because you're going to miss out on the deal. That is a huge mistake. You're going to end up with a bunch of stuff you don't use. How do I know that? Well, I've done it myself. I have several products that I don't use anymore. I thought I might use them. There's another set of things I thought I might use, and turns out I didn't need them. And I got these products that I got a lifetime deal on them. It's no good. The other thing with AppSumo that I have heard, which this is just anecdotal, right? So I don't know. But I have heard they're very tough negotiators. So they'll really try to pull a good deal out of the company, out of the product owners. And what I have seen a couple times with some products that I've purchased is I got a lifetime deal, then the company goes out of business because they can't support the customers that they have. Or at least the product changed. Basically, it ended up being not useful for me anymore. So I have seen that. And, it's great for consumers, but it's kind of, it's like the Walmart of marketing tools. And as far as the tools that you could find there, I think there's a shitload of them now. It's a great marketplace. But just remember, don't buy stuff that you don't need. Buy things that you're going to use. Like you have a problem and the tool solves the problem. Technically, and AppSumo has invited me to be a affiliate, but you may notice that I never even talk about them. So I'm not even sure if I'm signed up, but I was like, you know what? I mean, it's so high pressure. Like their sales are, I mean, some of their copy is pretty funny, but their sales are very high pressure. And it's like, don't miss out on this other thing. And I think it encourages you to buy things that you don't need. So don't do that. All right. Okay, I'm gonna try to answer faster. Okay, thanks for using the SiteGround link when you get the hosting. Yeah, I do like SiteGround a lot. They are, they're a little more expensive than they used to be, but I have probably half my sites over there. Okay, and Razvi says, can we use a web page format for an image? I'm not sure what you mean. Can you rephrase that? Or if someone knows, you could answer in the chat. And more votes on the 4-hour work week. Zach says 0 to 1. That's the Peter Thiel book. I did not read that, but I have heard good things. Yep. And Guys says the person who recommended the Millionaire Fastlane said that the title doesn't do it justice. So yeah, and I mean the 4-hour work week has like the same kind of name, but Millionaire Fastlane just was even worse. And you know what? I think I read the Millionaire Fastlane, and it was, or maybe I've heard interviews with the guy. It was like a cab company or a limo company, right? All right, vote for Lean Startup. Very nice. The book is bloated, so just read an online synopsis. Ergyon says, do I use one link from Amazon? I do not. I use Genius Link. Oh, someone is reading. Ariel's reading Atomic Habits. And I will listen to it. I will listen to Atomic Habits. But I'm pretty sure I've heard all the punchlines. All right, Simplified Gardening. What's going on? Good to see you. Musab, what's up? Okay, and Ariel says, yes, he references The Power of Habit. And Atomic Habits was on the shelf, so I was hoping to take a look at that as a sign. Yeah. And I mean, people love it. People love Atomic Habits. And I read some of James Clear's blog over the years, and it's really cool that book's out. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, the 4-hour work week is, I think it's like a rehashing of the 80/20 rule and maybe vagabonding by, I don't know who 80/20 is, but vagabonding is Rolf Potts, which is an awesome book. And if you go back into the Tim Ferriss podcast archive, check out the interviews with Rolf Potts. That sort of changed the way I looked at a lot of things. Looking at, time is a very valuable resource versus just like money, time, and sort of freedom. All right, before we go on and on and on here, I'm going to give a shout out to our other sponsor, Odys, Odys, and they're at Odys Global. And if you join using it's free to join, you just have to go through a short sort of application process. You can follow my link in the description. You get $100 into your account, and they have aged premium age domains. I think it's all right to say it either way. And they have this great search tool mechanism over here and filtering. I guess it's filtering. So in this case, what did I filter on? I don't even remember. Nutrition and wellness. So let's look at let's see what kind of domains we have out there for, well, I like alcohol. Let's check that out. So we have Vino Hawaii, a winery. So we just have 3 here, but you can see, if you're like, hey, I want to have some site related to alcohol, you can have a look here. And then there's cosmonaut.co, which that looks like a beer stein. So I like beer more than wine. So let's take a look at that one. I'm not sure if it is beer related. You do get the logo here, so they already have a logo for you, and they tell you. In quick note, they also have niche website builders that you can actually get a package, so you can get your domain and then you can get it set up with niche website builders. Good guys over there. Talk to them a bunch, and you could explore the history of the domain. So they have like some snapshots from back in the day, and they say it represents art, food, and beer to interested audiences and art exhibitions, beer pubs, comedy nights, and pop quizzes. So it'll be a little small here, but let's see. Interesting. Very, very old school looking site, retro. So let's go down and get a little idea about the age. We do see some backlinks from timeout.com, esquire.com, BarkPost, BuzzFeed, Behance.net, uprocks.com. So some pretty awesome links. It was started in 2011, so it's 11 years old. And let's just check out the SEO metrics. So we have the domain rating of 27. The Moz metrics are 41 and 35. So I think 41 is the page authority, 35 is probably the domain authority, 138 referring domains, and it's indexed in Google. So basically, you can build on this existing domain that has quite a few backlinks that are niche relevant. And if that's not a good match for you, you actually can, let's say you have a site related to outdoor topics, you could potentially hop over here and filter on that sort of thing, outdoor and recreation, and just see. And you could actually grab one of these domains and then redirect it to your existing domain and reclaim those links. So we got Pocket Artillery, Sherpa Ascent. Let's take a quick look at that one. So the thing is, you could browse for, whatever domain, whatever your niche is, they may have something available. And you can't recreate the age of the domain. It'd be very hard to recreate the links. Like this one has Business Insider 5280, which is a Denver related website. 5280, that's a mile high. And then 10 best, 5stars.com, and so on, right? So in the Mountain Project, I think I know what that is. Anyway, so Odys, they also sponsor these, and we appreciate it. So check them out. You can get a little money into your account if you use my affiliate link. All right, so we'll get back to the chat, and then I'll have a couple more stories because I think I'm going to be selling this guitar right back here. I think I'm going to be selling it, so I can tell that story if we run out of things here. All right. Gaz says, I like the analogy in the 4-hour work week. The goal is to earn enough money to free up your time, not to accumulate tons of cash that you don't need. Yeah. Totally. Yep. And Paula says, Namecheap and most registrars are pretty reasonable price. If you have add-ons like hosting with them, then the cost will change year to year. Yep, a lot of hosting companies will, like Siteground is a great example. They'll have a very low price for the first year, and then it goes up in the subsequent year. You can, however, pay for like 3 years in advance. A lot of companies let you do that, and you kind of lock in that rate for the 3 years. But you do have to pay all in advance. So you could pay, hundreds of dollars depending on what package you're getting. Simplified Gardening says, I listen to loads of self-help and business style audiobooks such as Fake, Rich Dad Poor Dads, Never Split the Difference, The One Thing, Think and Grow Rich, Traffic Secrets, and 80-20 is the Pareto principle. Yep. And Bravo 20. I don't know what that is. Is that a book too? Bravo BTZ. I don't know what that is. Yeah, so I think this guitar here it's a very cool guitar. So it was built in 1939. It's a Recording King brand, but it was built in the Gibson factory. And it was kind of like their budget model. It was sold, Recording King was sold in the, I forget the catalog. It's one of the old catalogs, and I need to like dig up the ad, but I think it sold for $10 or something like that. It was like $9.50, and it was a student grade guitar, but it was still built in the Gibson factory in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Again, 1939 is when that one was built, and this particular one was all beat up. And this guy who repairs old guitars as a hobby, he's a retired guy in Northern California. He picked it up from, I believe, Norman's Rare Guitars in, I think that's in Southern California. I think it's near LA. I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, he got that guitar, was all beat up and needed some repairs. So he, took it apart. Actually, I have pictures of this. He took it apart, re-glued all the bracing, put in new bracing, and the bracing in that guitar, it's underneath the the top is what we call it, the top of the guitar. And it used to be ladder braced, which is a cheaper implementation, and it's in some of the older guitars from that time period. It saved money. It was faster to manufacture and create those guitars. When this gentleman was fixing it, he was like, I'm going to take out the ladder bracing, and I have to take it out anyway, and I'm going to put X bracing in there, which is, I believe, the Martin Company. The Martin Guitar Company came up with the X bracing, and then it was a good upgrade, a good design. So many of the other manufacturers did the same thing. And the X bracing allows it to be a little louder, more bassy, punchier. It allows the top to reverberate more. So this guy put in X bracing, and again, I have pictures of that. And basically, he like brought it from being pretty beat up with some cracks and stuff like that to fully repaired and upgraded the bracing on the inside. So it's like scalloped Adirondack bracing, blah, blah, blah. And it's, an 80-year-old guitar, something like that. Very cool vibe. It's also a 12 fretter. However, one thing, I have small hands, generally. And the thing is, the neck is pretty wide. So like I said, it's a Recording King, which is a brand it's still around, but they have sort of a different focus. It's not Gibson oriented anymore, but Recording Kings are still around, and they have like sort of this kind of cool headstock like that. But the thing is, you could probably tell like the neck is very wide. This is the nut width. That's what they call that. So the nut width is pretty wide, and it's hard for me to reach. So when I was talking to bring it full circle. So when I was talking to my guitar teacher, Christina Vane, I was like, "Hey, here's the deal. I got this guitar. It's so cool. Like it has this really cool vibe and plays. I mean, it sounds awesome. It's tuned in G right now. Yeah, it sounds awesome. And it has a 12 fret, so it joins the body at the 12th fret. A lot of other guitars, like the one behind me, is joined at the 14th fret. So this is, comfortable to play in that the neck's a little bit shorter for me, but the nut width, the neck is just a little too wide. So when I was talking to my instructor, she was like, "Yeah, I know." She worked at a few guitar stores in her day, so she was like, "Yeah, you know what? I know exactly what you're talking about, and you should probably sell it, and you could find something that fits your hand a little bit more." So I'm probably gonna sell it. Yep. All right. And we have a couple more questions and then we'll wrap it up here. Quick shout out to, one or two things. So I do have a link in the description here to point you towards how to write content. It's a very common question. I know some of the questions today were actually they weren't about content generally, but you could check out that link and it'll help you figure out some. I mean, there's templates that you can just use straight up. So there's some templates there. You can check them out. The other thing, I have a podcast. I have two podcasts. One is called The Doug Show. I talk about affiliate marketing and such. There's a lot of success stories. So please check out The Doug Show. Very cool interview from this week is with Monica Lent of Affiliate. And we talk about how to figure out what is converting on your site. So it helps. She talks about like figuring out how to understand like which products are being sold from which pages so you understand where you're earning money. It can be a little difficult to do, but she created a tool to help you figure that out. But there are some things that you can do. I mean, even if it's just, pull a report from Amazon or wherever you're an affiliate and kind of understand what you're selling, and you can kind of back into it and figure some things out. All right. And Gas says Bravo 20 is it's a book about a British Special Forces squad that had a mission in Iraq. Go tits up. And it's a true story. You couldn't put it down. Cool. I have heard of that. Okay. Then the other podcast of mine is Mile High Fi, which my co-host and I talk about financial independence and personal finance in general. Random stuff. It's like hanging out with us. And that's actually going really well. Really, really well. We have a YouTube channel as well. We had Mr. Money Mustache on this past week. And we have some pretty awesome guests. Okay. MK says, what are my thoughts on Backlinko being sold to SEMrush? Well, number one, I didn't know that. And I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, I think SEMrush is a public company. And I was going to say, with the amount of traffic that Backlinko was getting and probably, earning pretty good money through, I think Brian had a couple courses or something out there. So I'm sure there's a big email list. And for a public company that has cash to spend, it's no surprise. And I was going to say, just thinking about the personal finance area. I know some of the personal finance blogs that are out there. I've got to talk to and meet some of the people, and these big financial companies, they'll buy a blog, they'll buy a personal blog. They don't give a fuck, right? They'll buy a personal blog, and rebrand it if they need to. But if there's traffic there and they're like, hey, I could buy this site, and they've gone, these personal blogs have gone for, huge sums of money, millions of dollars. So I would say, good for Brian. Really awesome for him to have done that. And I suspect, I mean, I don't know Brian personally, but I suspect there's a good chance like he was, making good money before. And he's like, you know what? I've had this blog for whatever, 8 years. I don't know how old it is, something like that, right? 7, 8 years. And, I think I'm going to cash out. So I've made a lot of money, and he probably got like enough money where he's in a spot where he probably doesn't need to work anymore, would be my guess. And it was probably a significant amount, especially knowing like that audience is perfect for like SEMrush. And again, I didn't even know that happened, by the way. Okay, Gaz says, I'm still suffering from articles not indexing, but after research, I think it's best to not get stressed and wait for Google to do its thing. Yeah, so I would say if you can publish like a lot more content, that potentially could help, just to show Google that, you're publishing a lot of content. I know in talking to Charlie from Passive Priority, I think, he publishes a lot of content, high amounts of content, and large amounts of content. And I don't think he has an issue with indexing. The other thing that could be helpful, and I noticed this with my one of my sites I did with niche website builders, which I hope I'll be able to share some more information about some of the stuff I've worked on with them in the past. But niche website builders, I had a shotgun skyscraper campaign running for about 6-8 months, something like that. And I got a lot of links, somewhere about 100 links or so from the campaigns that they were running for me. And I know, guys, you're not into link building, but shit's indexed really fast, right? Like if you have backlinks from good sources, like you're probably not going to have to worry about indexing. So that was really helpful. I think if you have traffic from other sources too, if you got like a steady stream of traffic through social media, I bet that would help too. But the thing is, if you're just in the game to publish a lot of content, then all the things I just mentioned as helpful, you're probably not going to work on, which is okay. And to your point, you can wait for Google to do its thing, and just whenever it's ready, you can you could just wait it out. I do have a podcast episode. Check it out, guys, if you haven't, on the Doug Show, where I talk about discovered and not indexed. And that, that is actually one of the few things that I did a little deeper research on. So you literally can go have a look at that, or have a listen to that specific podcast episode. It's been in the last couple months, I would say, maybe even in the last 6 weeks. So check that one out. I did the research so that I talk about like what Google says about it and why they have discovered but not indexed in there. And guys mentions that you have one article that is related, that's doing well. Maybe you should add an internal link to the articles not indexing. And you have been doing outreach to magazines in your niche. Cool. Yeah, both of those things will help if you can get links, and even internal links. I I mean, you should be doing that anyway, especially if it's related. So definitely do that. But I think I'm going to jet for now. I need to grab some lunch, but thanks everyone for hopping on. If you're not on my email list, please do sign up. You get all my templates and systems, and I send maybe like 2 to 3 emails per week most of the time. Let you know when I go live, sometimes, not all the time, and point you towards, helpful information. But you do get all of my templates and systems, so you get something out of the whole deal. So just go to nichesiteproject.com, click the green button, enter your name and email, and then I'll